My Gavanen and well met. I am Arachír Galudirithon, head of Divide and Conquer, here with another faction video, and this time for the realm of Imladris, the Rivendell, as we all know them in our own tongue. Just to give a brief overview of Imladris, this video will be a lot shorter than all the others because there's nowhere near as much to talk about with the elves, but I shall dive in nevertheless. A brief point to mention is that I don't tend to turn the fog of war off in these videos because I don't like you to see exactly where everything is. It's part of the fun to venture out into Middle Earth and find everything for yourself. So I leave it just as you can see here, which unfortunately for this video means it will be reasonably dull because all you can see is Imladris itself. But as I say, it won't. This one is not going to be very long because there's not much to talk about with Imladris. So, Imladris itself, at game start, what have we got? We have one region, Imladris itself, captained by Loremaster Elrond himself. Brief point, the elven voices are to be changed. We've tested them, we've tinkered with it, we've had them, but overall we think it's just not as pleasing to the ear as one would hope. And it also sounds remarkably Native American, which I'm not that keen on. Which is unfortunate because it shouldn't sound like a Native American, but it really does. So, this is your game start. You have Lord Elrond himself, who has a unique bodyguard of Imladris guards, who we'll see in the second half of the video. And he has his twin sons of Arachír, who both have Imladris Rangers, Arachír and Elladan. Imladris Rangers are mounted archers of Imladris. Very, very good units. Very, very strong indeed. Your greatest general is Loremaster Elrond himself. You start with a single province of Imladris itself, and that is the game start. You've got a few units, but they're all free upkeep currently within the walls of Imladris. Now, Rebel expansion in the early game is incredibly limited. To your north, the Orcs of the Misty Mountains will have that region. To your east, the Orcs of the Misty Mountains already have those regions. To your south, the Orcs of the Misty Mountains will take Anon and Arod. The only rebel provinces between you and enemies or allies are Camath Bryn, the castle in the woods of Rudar, and to the far south, the old ancient city of Ostin Ethil, town of the elves, from Eregion. And those really are your only expansion options before you have to attack someone. You don't really have very much choice at all because you start in a pretty cramped area of the world. Now, obviously, when you move on to who's your enemies and allies, so we go to our diplomacy, and straight away you know you're allied to the Northern Dunedain, who start in Fenestruinen, which is just here in the angle, just down here at the bottom of this section. And you start obviously allied with Lindon, who are far, far to the west over in the Bay of Lun, or the Gulf of Lune. Enemies, you start at war with the Misty Mountains, Angmar, and that is it. You don't yet start at war with Mordor because you're not strong enough yet to proclaim that you are to destroy them. And that's everyone that you start near. Dunland obviously are away to your south. You can attack them later game. Bree will certainly make themselves known eventually, fighting Dunland over here, which isn't too far from you. And should you take the mountains and cross over to the east, perhaps your closest neutral, or in fact the closest faction to you who are neutral, are the Vale of Anduin. And if you go through the town just here, you'll be able to cross out into the Vale, where you can decide to obliterate or save the weak folk from Anduin. To your south, obviously, you've got Khazad-dûm as well. They're set to passive, so they'll never leave their mountain range, but if you wish to, you can certainly attack them. You can do what you like in these Total War games. So you've got Khazad-dûm to the south. Very, very profitable region. One of the most profitable regions in the game, in fact. So if your money's tight, that's always a good one to take. You usurp the dwarves. Teach them a lesson for what they did many, many years ago to the elves in Beleriand. Or you can attack Goblin Town, the capital city of the Orcs of the Misty Mountains, which is just to your northeast. Zag-Kala's just to your southeast. So you've got two options of Orcs to attack. And that's kind of the early game for you. In terms of economy, Imladris have no construction restrictions, so you can build all the top tier buildings, so that's very good. Imladris itself, as you can see, makes very, very little money. You've got silk, which is a rare trading resource, which gives you good money. So trade rights are certainly worthwhile with as many people as you can to try and maximise that. But there's not too many resources around the lowlands of the Misty Mountains. But if you can take the Misty Mountains, then the mines will give you tons of money. So it's always worthwhile pressing on for the mines. Mines are the best way to make money in this game because it's a fixed income. It's not affected by anything else other than the size of your empire. because there is a fixed value called corruption and other, and the larger your holdings grow, the larger that grows itself, and that is just purely to keep a check so factions can't become incredibly powerful. But you still can become incredibly powerful, but just a small little gameplay mechanic for you there. But other than that, economy-wise, Imladris is not the best. Your troops cost so much money. I mean, these are your basic starting units. They cost 350. In the last faction video I did of Enedwaith, we saw that their best unit has an upkeep of 330. So you're already more expensive than the Orcs and the Wildmen's more elite units before you've even begun the game. So money is going to be tight. That's the only difficult thing about the Elven campaign. But if you take the right settlements, you'll be making money hand over fist before you know where you are. As I said, you don't get construction restrictions apart from you can't upgrade any castles. I believe you might be able to get it to a wooden castle, but you can't get it to a larger castle, and we've discussed that at great length in the past. And mostly it's just because whilst the elves have the ability to construct great and strong halls, it's kind of used to reflect the fact that they're leaving Middle-earth. So whilst they might upgrade the odd town to better serve them whilst they're there, they're not really looking to set up large recruitment stations or watch posts or watchtowers or anything like that. So the castles they kind of just leave alone, and they maintain a garrison, but they don't really upgrade them any further in anticipation of the fact that they are all sodding off to a man. Excuse me, sorry. In terms of construction, we obviously move on to guilds. You get quite a few as the elves. You get the History Guild, which is History Guild, Great History Guild, and Master History Guild, which just gives a bonus to all of your troops, experience bonus to troops, experience bonus to cavalry. You get Construction Art, which is a population and income growth bonus building. It costs a lot of money, but there is a problem where the elves tend to cap out and they can no longer increase their population. And so this building initially was only added for the AI, but it's been added to the humans now as well, to us players, to give you that bonus. So you can train that one. I'm not entirely certain that one is actually a guild. No, it's not. It's listed as a guild, but it's really just a building. You can build it at any point. You can build it whenever you want. So that's listed there. And it just gives you an income bonus and a growth bonus, and that's all that one does. And then finally you also obviously get the Warriors Guild. You get a Bladesmith Guild, a Master Bladesmith Guild, and a Noldorin Bladesmith Guild. And as you can see from the features here, these give you quite a lot. The Bladesmith standard gives you a melee weapon bonus. Very, very useful. Always try and get those. The Master Bladesmith, you should be able to get one of these because it's one per faction, and that will give you a morale bonus to your troops and make them even stronger than they already are, and an experience bonus. And then if you get lucky enough to get the Noldorin Bladesmith, which is really tricky, but you might be able to, you get a melee bonus of 5, experience bonus of 2 to global, and you also get Celebrimborian Plate, which otherwise is only available in the Gwaith y Myrdain Guild of Austin Ethil, which is the ancient jewelsmith guild where Celebrimbor forged the famed rings of power, and he gives his name to the best plate mail that you can get, and if you manage to get the Noldorin Bladesmith Guild, you get his plate, which is available there as well. The dwarves and the high elves get the highest armor value through the blacksmith of anyone. So almost all of your units can be upgraded way beyond what other factions can. You have the very, very strong armor, and you get good armor upgrade. A nice little feature for Imladris as well, which is only available in Imladris, but if you manage to take some of the regions of Old Arnor, you also can build the Dunedain encampment. And it gives you some wardens and some cavalry, which you will see in the second half of the video. It gives you a free upkeep slot, which is also very, very nice, but it just fills the gap because the elves get very few units, as we will see. So it's a nice little touch that as you have raised every single chieftain of the Dunedain since the fall of Arthedain, it seems only fair that some of them will pledge their service to Imladris as well. So you can train a few humans in your merry band. Right, in terms of scripts that affect Imladris, unfortunately again there aren't really any. The only script that you get, which isn't really a script, is just the return of Glorfindel, the famed hero of the First Age who fell defending the escapees of Gondolin as he fought the Balrogs in the rear guard. Side note, always seemed odd to me that Glorfindel was sent back to Middle-earth to fight for the Free Peoples and is given almost a Mayan status, a Maya status. He's kind of like, he's feared by the Nazgul. He has an aura around him of brilliance. He's incredible fighter and famed for destroying the Balrogs. But Ecthelion from the first stage killed the Lord of the Balrogs, called Gothmog. But he doesn't get to come back. I'd never understood that, but anyway, by the by, if anyone knows, do feel free to tell me in the comments. Always thought Ecthelion was a bit more deserving to be returned after he killed Gothmog in the fountain, and they fell fighting each other in the fountain, whereas Glorfindel only defended the rear guard as they fled Gondolin. But anyway, by the by. Glorfindel comes back sometime between 30 and 40, I believe. He comes back with your greatest cavalry unit. Obviously they replenish because they're a bodyguard, so he is a one-man machine. You can absolutely abuse Glorfindel to just destroy anyone and everyone you see fit. So try not to use him too much like that, because he can win games on his own. Difficulty with the elves, unfortunately, they are the easiest faction. There is no way around it. The 4 elven factions are the easiest factions. It's debatable which one of them is actually the easiest. Linden is way up there for being the contender for the easiest, sorry. So Linden are the easiest, but other than that, the others are also very, very easy. So whilst your economy is tricky, and it's hard to balance how to make money, your units cost so much, so that's why obviously it's difficult to earn money, because your units cost a lot. But other than that, your units are powerhouses. They're absolutely incredible, and no one can really stand against you. You've got incredible morale, incredible armor, very good attack, so you're almost nigh on unbeatable. It helps as well that Imladris is obviously a custom battle map, and it's very easy to defend. So that it's tricky for them to take Imladris, and if you feel that you can't defend Imladris, you can always just defend the bridge in front of it, which bridge battles for the elves are almost always a whitewash, because obviously you're an archer heavy faction. There aren't really any tips for the elves, I'm afraid, because they're so easy, but the only tip I would give is go for the mountains. You get slower replenishment and recruitment in the mountains because you're elves, so the elves mostly get training. Your training is fastest in grassland and forests, but in the mountains you get so much money, so it's worth taking the mountains, holding them, and then expanding into the lowlands on either side to get the units from there. And that's the only real tip I can give as playing as Imladris. So we can go into the battle now and we'll take a look at all their units. Imladris, as an overview, are an elite faction. You don't really get militia units. Your units start off as medium or upper medium tier in comparison to the whole world, and you get the best elite units in the game. Your best units are slightly better than the dwarves' best units. The dwarves are all about defense. The elves are all about overall. But one thing that we can see as we zoom out, as I always do, one thing you can almost immediately see is that you get quite a lot of cavalry for this faction. Which is a nice little feature of the elves. The 2 Dunedain units that I spoke of a moment ago aren't available in custom battles, so you won't be able to see them. But you get the Dunedain Wardens, who are the spear unit, and just standard Dunedain cavalry. And that's the units that you get from the Dunedain encampment. But as you can see, very, very small roster, incredibly small roster. Quite a few archers though for the roster size. 4 plays whatever that is, 10 or 12 units. So it's not overwhelming, but your archers are very, very good. Right, in terms of when you get things in and around in regard to the barracks event, we'll just line everything up. So where everything goes. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. There we are. Group them, group them. You, and you are elites. And then you are all unique elites. So this is your first tier. But these in themselves are much better than Wildmen and Orc first tiers, who are kind of the baseline of first tier. Then you've got your middle tier here, which I believe are available before the barracks event, or certainly the Tulkas Faithful. I believe it goes Tulkas Faithful, and then those ones come in the middle. And then you get, after the barracks event, you got your Noraturno Cavalry Imladris Rangers, then you're obviously your Eldorwyn, and then finally your AORs at the top, who are incredible. But we'll start at the beginning. You've got Sword and Bow Quendi, as I'm sure you're all very familiar with Sword and Bow Quendi. We're starting with an 18 defense. An 18 defense, that's better than Enedwaith's best unit's defense. That's better than the Orcs unit's defense, and this is your first unit. It's that kind of thing. All elves have excellent stamina, so your units can fight very, very hard, and you also get very, very good morale. Not as good as the dwarves, you're not as unmoving as the dwarves. You elves are known to flee, but you have got good morale. An attack of 8, which is insane for a starting unit. The charge obviously is only 4, but when you're worried about the charge when your defense is 18, your attack's for 8, and this is your first unit, it's just that kind of thing. The bow Quendi again very very good, slightly worse melee, but a missile of 7. A missile of 7. The best Gondorian archer has a missile of 6. And that's its best archer. This is your first archer, missile of 7. So it's just incredible. I mean, ranger aside, the Ithilien rangers aside, the Gondorian mainline archers, you're looking at around 6. You can use sharpened stakes, which is a feature of the elven archers all the way up. A few of their things they say are still in the old Sindarin voices, but
keep your wits sharp. Ready your mounts.
Most of them now are taken from the Battle of Middle-earth.
Let your bows sing.
So they at least do say elves, and they have the elven voice that we all know if you've played that. But the Boquendi, slightly worse armour, as you can see, 4 less, but that's just because they don't have a shield and they're not as defensive. So you've got a standard archer and a standard sword. These guys are so dependable you could win the entire game with just them and probably never need to trade anything else. That's how good they are. Right, the next tier up are the Tulkas Faithful, named for Tulkas, the Valar, who was the last to enter Middle-earth, and upon his arrival Melkor fled, fearing the strength of Tulkas, as he is known as the Brawler. If the Valar were compared to the gods of the Greeks, Tulkas is Mars, he is Ares, he is the god of war. But he's not really the god of war because Tolkien didn't do them like that. But he's the strongest, so they've taken his name. These guys can hide anywhere, which is incredibly useful. They have ridiculous two-handed swords, as you can see there. And they have an insane attack of 14, which is so high. As I say in other videos, the attack range on Dak, the highest melee attack is around 15 to 18. So somewhere in between those two. So an attack of 14 for your second tier unit is just blinding. They have the same defense as the militia as well of 18, which is phenomenal. And they're effective against armor. They're absolute beasts. They are so strong, it's unbelievable. And they're available before the barracks event. But these are all you're going to get before the barracks event, plus the 2 units of Dunedain. So your armies aren't going to be very varied, but you're still going to be really powerful. But as I say, you're an elite faction. You're all about after the barracks event. That's when you get your strength. Powerful charge, excellent stamina, and again, very good morale response. These guys are also good against cavalry. Because the elves don't have too many spear units, indeed only having Eldarinway spearmen and the Imladris guards. So the Tulkas Faithful, the fact that their raw strength is why they're good against cavalry. They are brutal, they are savage, and that allows them to just bring down anything with willing and gay abandon. So they've also got nice little sheaths on the back, so you can see their hummingbirds done a good job with them. So, and very nice looking unit. The description talks a little bit about Tulkas as well if you're interested. And the next tier up. Alright, in the next tier you start to get your first cavalry, although I do think actually I may have lied and the rangers might be available here as well. The rangers are only available in Imladris itself, so I believe they probably are available. They're very good morale response, Again, same militia, same armor as the militia, but a better missile attack than the archers, and their cavalry, which the mobility of cavalry obviously it speaks for itself. Cavalry archers are one of the best types of units. Something I did mention about the Boquendi is they've got average accuracy already, whereas the militia for most factions has poor accuracy, so you're already better. 170 meters, which is good. 20 missiles, not too bad. But the Imladris Rangers have 140 meters because they're cavalry, so it's slightly less. But they're working on high accuracy already with 30 missiles. So they're going to keep firing for a very, very long time, and they're going to do a lot of damage. Imladris are a very defensive faction. Your units can hold the line till just almost indefinitely, and your archers get so many missiles with such high accuracy and damage that they can bring down almost every foe before they even reach your line. So you're all about just holding the line and letting your archers bring them down. They can form a Cantabrian circle, which isn't called that in this. Its name's been changed to just circle and shoot, but we all know it from Med 2 as Cantabrian. Excellent stamina, again reminiscent of all elves. Very, very dependable, especially once they've run out of arrows, because their charge is 8, which is really good, and their melee is 9, which again is incredible. So once they've run out of arrows, even then they're still a force to be feared, and they are the personal bodyguard of Elladan and Elrahir. They also get a nifty little armor upgrade when you upgrade them, so they're pretty cool when they get upgraded as well, so do bear that in mind. And then you come to your mainline middle tier units, the equivalent of the lower tier, but this time it's an archer and a cav. However, the Noraturno aren't strictly archers. Whilst yes, they have a missile of 9, which is incredible, and they can sharpen stakes, they're also solid melee units. They are as good in melee as they are with their bows, so they are your all-round. You just need lines of them, and you can have some in the front ready with their swords. You can have some in the back just firing at the enemy. They are your main line unit, and I can't quite recall if they're bought before or after the barracksmen, but I believe they're after. And once you can get them, you want to try and use them as much as possible because they are so dependable. And they get the support of the Norreturno cavalry,
Ready your mounts.
who are just obviously Norreturno warriors but on cavalry. Very good charge of 8 again with an attack of 9, similar to the ground version. They are just literally their mounted counterpart. Defense of 21, they're good at hiding in woods, and again, good morale responses. But their secondary attack is of 10, sorry. So once they've done their attack, their initial charge, their secondary attack is better, meaning that they are very, very good in prolonged melee. So whilst their initial charge is incredibly effective and will do a lot of damage, they're also very good if you just leave them going and leave them fighting the enemy. And that's worth noting. So those are your middle tier, and then you come to your elites, the 4 Elderinwe units. There's little that needs to be said of these. There are 4. There is a sword, a spear, an archer, and a lancer.
Ready your horses.
The lancers, it's either the lancers or
Ride from Rivendell.
the riders who come back, who Glorfindel has when he comes back. But either way, they're both incredible. The spearmen are your main line,
Spears.
so they'll be the battle line. The enemy will hit into them and they'll soak up the damage. 33 defense. We're way up there now with some of the best defense in the game. An attack of 14 for a spear unit is phenomenal. Very useful with their skills as well, but they don't inspire enemy and they don't fear enemy. They don't make the enemy afraid and they don't inspire your troops. There's that to bear in mind. But you're now up to the excellent morale, good morale response. Obviously they're spearmen, they're good against cavalry, but they will hold the line. They have the golden armour that we see in the prologue of the Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, Peter Jackson's film. Whereas Linden, when you see the Linden video, they have a blue silvery kind of version. But next up are the swordmen. These are the shock infantry. Their attack is 19, their charge is 10. That is formidable. I can't begin to express how strong that is. And they have a defense of 26. So these guys will hold the line. The enemy will attack into them. And then these ones will come from round the back and hit the flank and then basically just swash the enemy away and then return back round, or then you can charge them up and move in on the next enemy. Obviously you've also got your archers for support.
Let your bows sing.
The Elderinwe archers. Less defense, the worst defense of the 4 Elderinwe units, as you'd expect, because they don't have a shield, but still have a very good melee attack of 13 and a better charge than the oh no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. A terrible charge, to be honest, for a unit of this tier, but a melee attack of 13, which is very, very good for an archer unit. Again, they're dependable once they're done, but with these ones you want to charge them in. With Elderinwe swordsmen, you charge them in and leave them there, but with the Elderinwe archers, you charge them in and then pull them out, because they don't last as long. But they are still so elite that you could leave them in there. It depends on who you're fighting against, but use a judgment, but the chances are they'll survive for a very long time. A missile attack of 11. 11, I believe, is the highest missile attack. Oh no, 12 is, and that's unique to Thranduil's Hinidaur units. They have a missile attack of 11, which is the highest standard missile attack of a non-ranger unit. So you can imagine how much damage they do. And of course they are incredibly accurate with very high 210 meters, 32 arrows. If you had an army of just Elderinwe, there's pretty much nothing that could stop you. The only thing that might be able to take you down is an army from Dol Amroth, because their cavalry will be able to reach you before the arrows do anything, or an army of dwarves, because they're so heavily armoured and so well equipped with shields that arrows don't do as much damage. But other than that, all the enemies that you're likely to face, like the orcs, the bad factions, the evil men, you should be able to walk away, which is why the elves are an easy faction. And finally, you've got the Elderinwe Lancers, who are just mounted counterparts of all the others. Charge of 15 is expected of cavalry, solid defense of 30, good attack of 12, secondary attack of 15. So you can charge them in and then leave them there, and they'll do all the damage. These aren't just elites; they're like the game's best elites. It's like that kind of level. Apart from these 4 who have been saved till the end. Brief point to mention, you do also get Mithlond nobles, but you need Mithlond to train them. So in order to separate Linden and Imladris a little bit, in custom battle Imladris can't train Mithlond nobles and Linden can't train Eregion smiths. So you do also get Mithlond nobles, but they'll be in the Linden video. Right, these 4 units are the game's best elite units. There's almost nothing better than these in the game apart from like orcs and great beasts and oliphants, things like that. But they all have restrictions. Every single one of these has a restriction. First up are the nobles.
From Rivendell.
Restriction in that they are your general's bodyguard. 41 defense. Just words is my description of how strong that is. They are formidable, which is why there's only 13 of them. But even though there's 13 of them, they will still wreck enemy units. But they're your bodyguard unit. There's a few of them at the back there. Oh, they need a new sprite. Did you see that? They changed to purple when they're in the background. Must write that down. Change the sprite. Anyway, so those are the Eredin nobles. We tried to make the White Knights of Dol Amroth based off of these, but unfortunately they're protected by Louis Lux, so we couldn't. But those are the Eredin nobles. They're your general's bodyguard. The next up are the 2 Imladris units, along with the Imladris Rangers, who are right down the front here. These are only available from Imladris. They're entirely inspired by the Hobbit movie designs. As you can see, they've got the red and blue capes that we see in the Hobbit movie, and they've just got a bit of an updated armour look between the original trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy. The Imladris Guards are pikemen. They're also the personal bodyguard of Elrond himself. A 34 defense for a pike, which is just insane, and an attack of 15. They do inspire nearby troops. They're good at hiding in woods, and obviously excellent morale and incredible stamina. They don't have unbreakable stamina though. That really is a feature reserved for the dwarves and for trolls and things like that. So these guys will flee if the battle goes ill, but that's rare enough. Because they're pikemen, they can keep the enemy at bay, so they're almost unstoppable, to be honest. And they've got pretty cool looking pikes with like swords on the end. They're just awesome. And their mounted counterpart are the Imladris Riders. 37 total defense. I believe that is the highest after the Eldarin nobles. So Imladris have the 2 most heavily defended units. Again, very high attack, very high charge. They can essentially obliterate an entire unit of anything in a single charge because of how strong their bonus is. So ridiculously strong, but they cost so much money. It is rare that you'll ever have 1 or 2 of these in an army. Their recruitment cost is mental, and their upkeep is equally as insane. So they cost so much money to outfit to counter the fact that they are powerhouses on the field. And finally, the Smiths of Eregion. These need the Gwaith Merdain Guild rebuilt in Ostin Ethil, whereupon they will then train from it. Everybody knows these from vanilla vanilla Third Age Total War. These guys are effective against armour, which is not a trait that's particularly prevalent through the Elven faction. So whilst the dwarves are very heavily armoured and they're very good against armour, the elves are very heavily armoured, but they're not particularly special against armour, with indeed only the Tolkis' Faithful and the Smiths of Eregion being good against armour. Which means that if you come up against trolls, your cavalry and Tolkis' Faithful are really your options. There's nothing really else you can do. Obviously your archers as well. But you don't have a solid anti-armor unit until you get to the Smiths. And 42 defense, again, highest defense I believe in the game, outside of for an infantry unit, with an incredible attack. But their charge isn't particularly good for a unit of this tier. But again, they inspire nearby troops, effective against armor, excellent stamina, excellent morale, all that sort of thing. They're the bonus against wargs, but not against cavalry. So they'll bring down, well, where it says wargs, it's camels and wargs, because wargs are considered camels in the game files. So if you ever come up against the forces of Harad, these will destroy camels, and if you ever come up against wargs, these are your warg killers. They're really killers of anything. They are certainly a candidate for the best unit in the game. They're up there in the shortlist, so certainly use them when you can. Alright, and that is the Imladris roster. As we always do, we shall end with a mock battle. I believe we're against the forces of Mordor, I can't quite recall. We'll charge immediately with our lancers to show off their raw power. So let's take... Some voices are still the Sindarian voices, but we hope to change all of that, so stand by. We'll start the battle, and we will immediately charge for everything. Oh, I missed. Oh, they've turned around. Who have we got going first? Imladris Riders into a line of Morgul Chosen. Mordor's the most elite spear unit. Oh, absolutely destroyed them. 156 or whatever it was, down to 58. Cavalry over here made a dent. Our archers are already firing in. Ah, but some great beasts over there are dealing with our lancers. The great beasts of Mordor's counter to the elves, to be honest. And Mordor's only counter to anything that's quite strong, because the by now everyone should know how to deal with Arachír. Ah, the Noroturnos are breaking because they charged into great beasts. Just proving to you that whilst the elves are strong, they aren't unshakable, and they will run if it calls for it. Some Arachír going to charge the sword Quendi. The Arachír should destroy the sword Quendi, to be honest with you. Oh, we got beasts throwing javelins coming in as well.
The feat seems almost certain.
Oh, decimated. Their turn on the charge, and they've done well. And the beasts have broken through the swordmen and into the Noroturno behind. Disaster strikes. How many of our cavalry have survived? 4 lancers. And what about the Imladris cavalry? The nobles, there's 5 nobles still going. And Imladris riders have only lost about half, and they've killed so many. And that's how it is. But I'll go up and down a few times as I always do. But that's Imladris. You're an elite faction. You are all about after the barracks event, and you're a defensive faction. Those are the 2 words I'd use to describe them, as I describe every faction in a few words. You're a defensive elite faction. So you can hold the line better than almost any faction other than possibly the dwarves, because your archers are far superior, and overall your units are more heavily armoured. The dwarves have a wider range of units, whereas you focus very much on that late game unit style. But your units cost a lot of money, so you do have to always bear that in mind. It's hard to keep the elves going because you cost quite a bit. Do bear in mind, again, I say it quite a lot, but trolls are not considered cavalry, so don't use pikes and spears against them unless they are effective against armour, because the greatest thing to kill trolls with are missiles and units who can take down armour. But their beasts are certainly doing a number on us at the moment. But the javelin guys on top are still throwing all their javelins. The smiths should be able to deal with them, absolutely no trouble. Oh, there goes a beast. They're falling by the number now. Oh, but they're about to be flanked. The Tulkas is faithful. Morgul chosen from the rear. Turn around, Bez. Look at them dropping beasts like there's nothing. And so the elves they're very fun. They are fun, but you're not going to be hard. If you play this game for difficulty, stay clear of the elves. Is all I can suggest. But that will do it for the end of the Imladris video. As I say, it's slightly shorter than many of the others. Think about half an hour this time. But if you have any questions, queries, or you just want to talk about DAC, do follow the link in the description to Total War Center. You can also go to ModDB, but only I monitor ModDB, as I say quite a lot. At Total War Center, you can read anything you want about the mod. You can view any of these videos through the links on the first post, and you don't necessarily need to create an account unless you want to say something. But the accounts are free. It's up to you. And we'll be there to give you a hand. But it's tricky to give a hand on YouTube because, again, I'm the only one that monitors it.
We've lost half of our men.
So do go to Total War Center if you need any real advice. But for now, that's it for this video. So I'm Arachír Galudirithon, head of Divide and Conquer, Navar Neden Pedimad, and farewell.